Why do the right thing? Why let Vader become champion when you could stick with the pill-popping, egotistical, non-title-dropping son of a bitch of a champion that you already had? At least that must have been Vince's line of thinking on this night. I'm John Ritlin with a retro review of WWE SummerSlam 1996. Yeah, I didn't like this main event. I did not like this main event at all. It makes me angry every single time. In fact, that face right back there was pretty much my exact reaction to watching it again. And according to Cornette and others, it was supposed to be part of a trilogy. This was supposed to happen, like the whole, count out, then DQ, then, Shawn wins. That was supposed to be the case. And then Vader was supposed to beat him at Survivor Series 96 and drop the title back at the Alamo Dome at the Royal Rumble 97. Here's the problem. Shawn threw one of his bitch fits because that's all he fucking did then. All he fucking did was throw bitch fits. Now, I know that he cleaned up his life. And whatever, he got off pills, he got off the alcohol. Hey, good for him. He got clean. And he seems to be a better man for it. Doesn't know how to sell a goddamn punt on a Raw, but I digress. Shawn Michaels was so fucking unprofessional here. And yes, 2005 SummerSlam with Hogan, you could point to that. That was at least entertaining. Because you had two guys that wanted to, use their egos to get what they wanted. So, I'm not necessarily going to say that wasn't at least entertaining, even if it was unprofessional. But this fucking wrecked Vader. Because then Shawn went, no, I don't want to work with Vader because he's too stiff, because it is this. Well, Shawn, you were getting a lot of slack for being champion after the whole curtain call thing and a whole bunch of other stuff. But nope, Shawn had to throw a tantrum, and Vince McMahon really just loved Shawn and would sacrifice everybody in the company to get Shawn over and to keep Shawn over and to keep Shawn happy. There is no doubt that Shawn Michaels is one of the best in-ring performers ever. Some would say the best, and you're entitled to your opinion. He certainly ranks high on my list. But as far as unprofessional jackasses, yeah, he does. Now, was Vader perfect? No. But was he a great monster heel that Vince McMahon should have pushed? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He should have. Now, yes, he needed the shoulder surgery right after the 96 Rumble, and he came back too soon, and he was, damaged and everything. And he needed some time to get back, into in-ring shape. Okay. Yes, he had weight issues. But Vince McMahon wanted to push Mabel as a champion and almost did, but then Diesel beat him at SummerSlam 95, which I also retro-reviewed. You can check that one out. He could have pushed Vader. Hell, he could have had Vader win here, and then Shawn Michaels could have beat him at the 97 Rumble, and it actually would have made it even more impactful. I actually fantasy booked Vader's first year in WWE, and I think I did, from a fan's perspective, pretty damn well. And I understand where they were going with this, but I'll get into it a little bit later, but just fucking hell, it still makes me goddamn angry. And Shawn, he gets a lot of slack and everything. He was on pills, he was on this. Well, you know what? That's his goddamn fault. At the end of the day, that's his goddamn fault, and he took ownership of it, but fucking hell, a lot of careers got wrecked because of Shawn. So, they're in the Gun Arena in Cleveland, Ohio, which I always call Queefland, Ohio, because I'm a mature adult. The dark match was Stone Cold Steve Austin against Yokozuna. King of the Ring winner, 2 months prior, is in the dark match at this, and Yokozuna breaks the ropes, and Austin pins him after 2 minutes. I think it was just under 2 minutes. Vince Jr., Mr. Perfect on commentary. Owen Hart versus Savio Vega. Owen had a cast on his arm that it just wouldn't heal. He was pulling the Bob Orton Jr. thing. Quite the opener. Savio targets the arm. We cut the footage of Cornette helping Vader train and everything. Clarence Mason shows up. He was a lawyer character they had. I actually think he was a legit lawyer that they had on camera for a while. And then he became the spokesperson for the Nation of Domination, which fit him pretty well. And back suplex onto the cast, and then he takes the cast off Owen, does, oh no, that dastardly Owen, the 2-time Slammy Award winner. And he hits him in the head, which the ref did see, but didn't see. It was referee Tim White. And then sharpshooter to a knocked out Savio Vega, and he gets a victory. And Justin Hawk Bradshaw shows up. That was Bradshaw, by the way, the future JBL. Yells about Savio Vega. God damn. He got that. Oh, God damn it. He called him a Puerto Rican troll. It's nice to see that Bradshaw's racism was, on display even in 1996. And sure, you can say what the fuck you want. I'm not saying he's the only guy, but Bradshaw's been notoriously racist and notoriously idiotic for years. And yeah, fuck JBL. He should have never been champion. Even though at times I've defended his title reign, you know what? it wasn't very good, and in retrospect, for all the bad shit he did in wrestling, he never should have been rewarded. Of course, Vince McMahon rewarded him because he helped him with stock tips. We then get Todd Pettengill with Mankind in the Boiler Room. There's no place like home. He clicks his heels together, and then suddenly, Undertaker's there, and oh, you were there, and you were there, and then Paul Bearer cracks Undertaker with the urn. Wait, that's later! So we then get the New Rockers, possible bowling alley murderer, Jimmy Snuka, Marty Jannetty, and Leif Cassidy, the perennial mid-card jobber, versus the Body Donnas, Chris Candido in a neck brace. I believe it was legit. He could not compete. And Dr. Tom Pritchard with a blonde haircut, just always looked weird. The Godwins with Hillbilly Jim and Smoking Guns with Sonny. Of course, Sonny managed 3 consecutive tag teams to tag team championships because she's familiar with being tag team repeatedly. I'm not going to apologize for anything I say about Sonny because she's a freaking scumbuck and a freaking gutter you-know-what, and she deserves every bit of bad shit that has happened to her because she fucking earned it. If she wanted to clean up her life and get better, then I would be all for it. But no, eventually, you have to take some accountability. Sonny's a goddamn piece of gutter trash. That's what she is. That's what she's always been. And she got a prime spot in wrestling. And I'm not saying the women haven't been mistreated in wrestling, and Lord knows they still are, which is unfortunate. But it ain't about gender with Sonny. It's about being a dumb bitch, and that's what she is. She's always been a dumb bitch. She always will be a dumb bitch. And she shouldn't be fucking bailed out or helped out by WWE with their rehab program. She's gotten chance after chance after chance after fucking chance, and she's shown herself to be a pretty bigoted person. If she wants to keep doing this shit to herself, it should be on her dime. It's her fault, and her fault alone. So, yeah, Candido was in a neck brace. The crowd didn't care at first. They really didn't care. In fact, I would actually call this match pretty boring. Pritchard got tripped by, I believe, Jannetty, and then Billy hit a move and covered him. So the Body Donnas are out, which is smart because Candido couldn't compete. And a slop drop pins Jannetty. Now we can go murder somebody else behind a bowling alley. And then Bart hits Phineas. And Billy tops him 1, 2, 3. So Smoking Guns retain their championships. And would lose them pretty soon after. I believe would lose them to Owen and Bulldog. And then Sonny yells at everybody. And then, you know, this giant banner pops down of her. You know, this spread. You know, her spreading. Like, you know, that's how she pretty much stayed employed. And got, you know, all stuff to help her habits. I'm not apologizing for that shit, because she did it to herself. So, anyway, then they do something weird. They didn't show this before the match. They didn't show this before the four-way. Godwins take a train while the Smoking Guns and Sonny take a carriage, and Sonny probably took what the horse had. Moving on from that, they do all this. Why was this not shown before the match? Why was this not shown before the four-way? One, it could have broken it up. And two, it would have made more sense because you could have seen this, oh, here's how they got to the arena, and then the Smoking Guns won. It just seemed really weird. And then Lawler's around the Cleveland Indians. And then other talents paint over graffiti, including Mark Henry. And there we go. Sid promo. He doesn't understand how microphones work because he kept whispering and whispering, and then he would eventually yell and pretty much broke the microphone. Then we get Sid versus Bulldogs. Sid was over. My God, Sid was over. And Cornette was still back there, excuse me, training with Vader. But Clarence Mason came out to talk to another one of Camp Cornette, you know, because he went out to kind of help Owen and everything and do a distraction. And he went out to talk to Bulldog. And then Cornette shows up and is all upset. Bulldog had hit a power slam, pretty impressive move. But wait, oh no, Bulldog doesn't cover. Choke slam, power bomb, and there we go. We get the victory for Sid. And Sid, boy, Sid really got some cheers here. Not as many as he'd get at Survivor Series 96. I might have to retro-review that. Because I loved watching the Shawn Michaels fangirls cry. Cry in the front row. That's your pilled-up hero, goddammit. I don't know if you can tell, but I didn't really like Shawn at this point. And also, he got some boos in this main event, which I'll talk about. So, yeah, then we have some aliens talking about, you know, promotion for mind games. Because aliens do mind games, apparently. This was something weird on the couch. It was aliens with a family that they, no doubt, probed before this. So, we then get Goldust with Marlena versus Mark Marrow with the gutter trash known as Sable. I do not like Sable. I will never respect Sable, at least as an on-screen character. Her and Brock have kids. Good for them. She should have never been allowed on WWE TV. Now, I get that she got a lot of ratings. Great. You know what also gets a lot of ratings? A lot of bullshit. And her stuff in the Attitude Era didn't hold up at all. But people liked her. I also wanted to care about this match, but I just couldn't. Marrow did bust out a shooting star press, a very impressive maneuver. Mankind showed up at one point earlier in the match to target Sable because he targeted her on a Superstars taping, calling her mommy, because at that point she was old enough to be his mother. That's unfair. Mankind was at least 30 at this point. Sable did really look old even when she looked young, though, because she had everything stretched. It was like clothespins were up here. I like how people are probably going to think that I'm being too harsh. I'm not being harsh enough on Sable. She buried so many goddamn women, and a lot of other, and a lot of other people did not benefit from working with Sable because she didn't want to take any goddamn bumps because she was a goddamn coward. I've never gotten in the ring because I know I couldn't take the punishment. She got more money than most of the women who were competing and taking those bumps and beating their bodies to shit, and had beaten their bodies to shit like Ivory. She got way more money than Ivory and so many others, but nah. Sable just couldn't be bothered to take some bumps. So, curtain call for 3. And then Goldust kisses Sable. Marrow's angry and they fight a bit. Then Ahmed Johnson has an update while wearing a red bathrobe. I could have done without this, but he had a kidney injury. And he had to relinquish the Intercontinental Championship. Because it was supposed to be Ahmed Johnson versus Shawn Michaels, champion versus champion. Oh dear. Oh dear. Could you imagine actually if Ahmed Johnson had won the championship? He won the main title. Could you fucking imagine that? It would have been one of the most catastrophic, title changes ever. They might as well have kept it on Shawn, even as much as I railed against him. All right, then Farouk, who had caused the injury to Ahmed Johnson, seemingly, even though he hadn't. Remember when he was dressed up like a Roman gladiator and they effectively just killed off any momentum he had? And he had Sonny? Because that was a way to kill off the momentum of anything he had. Just, God, he wants the Intercontinental Championship gold. Why the gladiator helmet? Why? Why did they do this to Farouk, a.k.a. Ron Simmons? A legit athlete. They could have done so much good shit with him. This is an example of Vince McMahon being an idiot. I'm willing to bet Bruce Pritchard had something to do with this too, because Bruce Pritchard usually has nothing but bad ideas. And any of his ideas that aren't bad are worse. Lawler then shows up in a Baltimore Ravens jersey because the Cleveland Browns had just left to become the Baltimore Ravens. While Mark Henry joins commentary for this match, and then he mocks Jake Roberts' alcoholism. I was not a fan of Jake Roberts by this point. He was out of shape. He really, he was coming across as disingenuous to me. But also Jerry Lawler was a freaking maniac at this point. And I mean, not the good kind of maniac. The kind where it's like, wow, he really thinks he's some kind of big deal when he was really just a territorial wrestler that managed to somehow get a lot of mainstream attention. That's all Jerry Lawler ever was to me. There are people that like him, and that's fine. But Harvey Whippleman's also the referee, so you have 3 scuzzbuckets in the ring. This was not good. 1, mocking alcoholism. And I mean, it kind of reminds me, this was the precursor to the Jeff Hardy-Sheamus feud that just wrapped up recently. I hope it wrapped up recently. And then a giant bottle of champagne in a big bag, and then Jake drapes his snake, named Revelations, all over Jerry Lawler. And man, that's the second scaliest thing in the ring besides Lawler. So, yeah, bottle to the throat for 3. Bad. This is really, really bad. And then he pours it down his throat. Should have been apple juice or iced tea. Now they had to make a real alcohol. I'm not saying Jake Roberts wasn't self-destructive and wasn't his own worst enemy. Literally, he was. But they could have done this a little bit better. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. And Mark Henry stops Lawler eventually. I think his brain had to catch up and everything, and Mark Henry had to go out there and do that. Or he's just waiting for his cue. Because this was in the very infancy of his career. And then Mankind versus The Undertaker. Boiler Room Brawl. Man, all that steam footage. Roll that beautiful steam footage. Good Lord. This was horror movie-like, and it still holds up. The one-camera shoot, the cutaways and stuff like... Well, the cutaways, like the glitches, like the video gets lost because it's just a one-camera shoot in a boiler room. This is good shit. I encourage you guys to go check this out. I really, really enjoyed this match. The boards, the pipes, the pallet, the wooden pallet, and then, Foley falls off a ladder. Can't imagine why Mick Foley had to retire from full-time wrestling at age 34. Can't imagine at all. Mankind's out first, then Taker is out. Wrestlers encourage them as they battle in the hall, including Steve Austin and Justin Hawk Bradshaw and Goldust and various other. Bart Gunn, I think, was also there. Various others were just there. They were all just there. Sonny was probably getting tag teamed somewhere else. Don't know if you can tell, but I didn't really like Sonny. And yeah, at one point, Mankind picks up this giant trough of coffee, a trophy, if you will, and just throws it at Undertaker. It was like a freaking bucket of coffee. I don't know why it amused me so much. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your eyes. Ow, that I know it doesn't rhyme, but ow, that looked like it hurt. And then Undertaker gets to the ring first. Mankind takes the ST plunge, the concrete bump. Ouch. And then the idea is you had to get to the ring, you had to get possession of the urn, and you win. Paul Bearer's been staying in the ring all this time like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They have TVs out there for everybody to watch, big TVs, and then a big screen and a video screen. But the way it's shaped, a lot of people can't really see what the fuck's going on. They just have to trust him whenever it cuts out. Everybody's booing, even though I'm sure only 30% of the arena could see. Undertaker emerges. He gets out there, but Paul Bearer won't give him the urn. He won't give him the urn. What the hell? Mankind suddenly attacks. Paul Bearer starts laughing. One of the best heel turns, actually. One of the best forgotten heel turns. Even though, I mean, everybody knows Paul Bearer did betray The Undertaker, a lot of people forget that was actually a pretty well done turn. And then he gives Undertaker the urn by smacking him in the head with it. And Mankind wins. And then we wouldn't see The Undertaker forever until Mind Games next month. As far as things go for Undertaker, they didn't really feature, or they didn't really stick with the whole not having him show up for a while, except Royal Rumble 94, SummerSlam 94. And Leslie Nielsen was looking for The Undertaker. That was good shit. And now we get... Shawn Michaels should have been friggin' slapped by everybody for this. Vader versus Shawn Michaels. Cornette, I want you to take a look at that face back there. Even if you're not a fan of Cornette. You tell me, even if you take the fact disdain out of Cornette, and I got 50-50 opinions on him, especially when it comes to modern wrestling, but he was in wrestling and I wasn't. Any reaction, any bad reaction, any what the fuck reaction, whatever. That's exactly what anybody should have had to this. Shawn at one point yelling at him because it's like, and it was a typical match. It was a good big man, little man match, except Vader should have gotten a ton more offense in. Yes, he had a powerbomb outside, and he was trying to be safe with Shawn because Shawn threw a tantrum, because Shawn didn't like that Vader was stiff. Well, Shawn, you shouldn't have been in the fucking ring if you didn't like people occasionally being stiff, like a 450-pound guy that hits like a freaking freight train. And I'm not saying Vader should have actually hurt him. I get it. Fucking hell. So, at one point, I swear Shawn was either going for a stomp or he's going to go for the elbow, and Vader's supposed to move. And Vader didn't move. And Shawn, instead of trying to cover it up, just kicks him in the head a few times and yells, "Move," a couple times. Right there, Sid, anybody should have ran out to the goddamn ring and just tackled Shawn and beaten him on live pay-per-view for that shit. Undertaker should have run out, except that would have killed the whole thing. It was ridiculous. It was so goddamn unprofessional. But no, but it's okay because Shawn was on pills and everything, and his life was spiraling out of control. I'm not saying he wasn't having personal issues, and personal issues no doubt will take hold of any wrestler, especially in that spot at, in that position, especially when so many people were leaving the company. But they didn't give Shawn any right to do that goddamn shit. Whether Vader was perfect or not, nobody is. That was fucking stupid. And then they do the count-out finish, and then they do the DQ finish. And Cornette pretty much saved this whole goddamn thing by calling Shawn a coward and everything. You got yourself counted out. You got yourself disqualified. Da-da-da-da. Vader kicks out Sweet Chin Music, goes for the moonsault that he would have missed anyway because Shawn was way, way too close to the ropes. And then Shawn hits a moonsault, 1, 2, 3. And that's your lot, and Vader was buried from there on. He was. Name one other prominent thing he did. Yes, he beat The Undertaker at the 97 Rumble. But by Mania 12, he was part of a 6-man match. They built up this whole thing for him to eventually take the title from Shawn, Survivor Series 96. That got nixed. And then the next day, or the next Mania rather, instead of being in a prominent spot, compete for the Intercontinental title, something, whatever, nope. He's competing for the tag titles with Mankind, or an unlikely alliance. And then he wasn't even part of Mania 14 because Kane took him out and he appeared for a few more months and then was released from his contract soon after and went back to Japan, where he's used much better. Yeah, Shawn Michaels deserves every bit of ridicule he gets for this. I don't care if it's 24 years ago. It's fucking unprofessional. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.